Ferrari did not just give Hamilton sprint pole at Silverstone. Ferrari gave every rival a reason to call the FIA. Because when a car suddenly looks fast on the straights, stable through Silverstone's fastest corners, and strong enough for Hamilton to put it at the front, the question changes instantly. It is no longer, how did Ferrari find speed? It becomes, why can't anyone else explain it? And in Formula 1, that is when rival teams start demanding checks, answers, and clarity. Not because there is proven wrongdoing. Not because the source confirms an illegal part. But because Silverstone is a circuit that exposes everything: drag, balance, tire stress, high-speed confidence, and whether a car is genuinely efficient or just lucky for one lap. And the timing makes it even worse. This happened on a sprint weekend, where teams have less time to react, less time to change direction, and almost no room to recover if Ferrari's advantage is real. So now the whole paddock is trapped inside one terrifying question. Is Hamilton's Ferrari hiding something the FIA needs to inspect, or did Ferrari just find a completely legal breakthrough that rivals cannot stop? Because the scariest outcome for Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, and everyone chasing is not that Ferrari fails the check. The scariest outcome is that Ferrari passes. Because if the car is legal, repeatable, and still this quick at Silverstone, then the rivals are not fighting a controversy anymore. They are fighting the possibility that Ferrari has found the answer first. Silverstone is where suspicion becomes impossible to avoid. Not because speed is illegal. Speed is the point of Formula 1. But because certain kinds of speed make rival teams nervous, and Ferrari's sprint car appeared to show the exact kind that forces everyone to look closer. A car can be fast in a straight line and still be beatable. A car can be stable in the corners and still be vulnerable on the straights. A car can take sprint pole and still look like it only caught the perfect moment. But when Hamilton puts Ferrari on sprint pole at Silverstone, and the car looks strong in the areas rivals expected to attack, the whole paddock starts asking the same question. Where did that come from? That is the first reason rivals would demand the FIA check Ferrari's sprint car. Because Silverstone does not reward one-dimensional performance. It tests everything at once. The car has to cut through the air on the straights, without becoming nervous in the fast corners. It has to give the driver enough grip to commit, without burning the tires too early. It has to be efficient, not just powerful. Calm, not just quick. And when a car looks strong across those areas, rival teams do not simply admire it. They investigate it. They compare it against what they expected. They compare it against their own simulations. They compare it against previous sessions. They compare it against the way the car behaved when the track was cooler, hotter, cleaner, or more difficult. Because in Formula 1, every surprise has a cause. The question is whether the cause is setup, driving, conditions, design, or something that needs official clarification. That is where the FIA comes in. The FIA is not just there for penalties after something dramatic happens. It is also there to define the line. To make sure the cars stay inside the regulations. To reassure the field that the performance they are seeing is legal, measurable, and understood. And when Ferrari suddenly becomes the team everyone is staring at, rivals do not want guesses. They want clarity. But this is where the story becomes uncomfortable. Asking for a check does not automatically mean Ferrari has done anything wrong. That is important. The source material does not confirm an illegal car. It does not confirm a penalty. It does not confirm a formal ruling against Ferrari. So the tension is not built on proof of wrongdoing. It is built on uncertainty. And uncertainty is one of the most powerful forces in Formula 1. Because if a rival knows why it is losing, it can react. If the problem is straight-line speed, it can adjust the car. If the problem is tire life, it can change the race plan. If the problem is corner balance, it can search for stability. But if the rival does not understand why Ferrari is suddenly this strong, every answer becomes risky. That is when teams ask the FIA to look closer. Not only to challenge Ferrari, to protect themselves from chasing the wrong explanation. Imagine a team sitting behind Ferrari after Hamilton's pole. They see the speed. They see the confidence. They see the car handling Silverstone's demands. But they do not know which part of the advantage matters most. Was it less drag on the straights? Was it more stable grip through the fast corners? Was it better tire preparation? Was it Hamilton extracting something the car had not shown clearly before? Was it a setup choice that only works in sprint conditions? Or was it a combination of all of it? That final possibility is the one that creates real fear. Because one advantage can be attacked. A combined advantage is much harder to break. If Ferrari is only quick down the straights, rivals can try to pressure them in the corners. If Ferrari is only strong in the corners, rivals can attack with straight-line speed. If Ferrari only had a one-lap peak, rivals can wait for the race to expose it. But if Ferrari has straight-line strength, corner confidence, tire control, and Hamilton at the front, then the sprint becomes a very different problem. Now the rivals are not just asking whether Ferrari is legal. They are asking whether Ferrari has found the best answer to Silverstone. And that is much scarier. Because the FIA can check legality. The FIA cannot make another team faster. That is the hidden fear inside the demand for answers. The rivals may want the car inspected because they need certainty. But deep down, the worst possible result for them may be a clean bill of health. If Ferrari passes every check, then the story does not disappear. It becomes more threatening. Because then the rivals have to accept that Ferrari did not need a forbidden trick to reach this level. They simply built, prepared, or tuned the car better for the demands of the sprint. And at Silverstone, that kind of advantage has consequences immediately. Hamilton starts from the front. Clean air helps the car breathe. The tires can be managed more carefully. The driver can choose the pace instead of reacting to traffic. And if the Ferrari is strong on the straights, the cars behind may struggle to get close enough to attack. That is why rival teams would want answers before the sprint becomes locked. Because once Hamilton controls the opening laps, the race can start closing around everyone else. A chasing driver has to push harder through the fast corners to stay close. That push can heat the tires. Hotter tires can reduce grip. Less grip means worse exits. Worse exits mean the Ferrari pulls away again on the straight. And suddenly the rival is trapped in a loop. Push harder, lose grip. Lose grip, lose the exit. Lose the exit, lose the chance. That loop is exactly why Ferrari's sprint car becomes so sensitive. It may not need to be dominant everywhere. It only needs to be strong where the rival needs weakness. And if Hamilton has that from the front, the pressure spreads quickly. Mercedes has to decide how aggressively to attack. Red Bull has to decide whether the pace is real or condition-based. McLaren has to decide whether to protect tires or chase track position. Every team behind has to decide whether Ferrari is a sprint threat, a Grand Prix threat, or a development warning. Those are different problems. And sprint weekends give almost no time to separate them. That is why this story feels urgent. A normal weekend gives the paddock more time to breathe. Teams can gather data. They can test assumptions. They can watch long runs. They can make calmer decisions. But a sprint weekend compresses the whole argument. The result arrives early. The pressure arrives earlier. The car is locked closer to its chosen direction. And if Ferrari's direction is right, rivals cannot simply erase the mistake overnight. So the FIA check becomes a pressure valve. It is a way for teams to ask, before this gets away from us, are we all looking at the same rulebook? Because Formula One is built on edges. Every team lives near the limit. The cleverest solutions are often the ones that make rivals uncomfortable before they become accepted. A car that looks too good in one area will always attract attention. Not because rivals are innocent victims, but because every team would do the same thing. If Mercedes found something, Ferrari would look. If Red Bull found something, McLaren would look. If McLaren found something, everyone would look. That is how Formula One works. The moment a car becomes difficult to explain, it becomes impossible to ignore. And Hamilton's pole makes Ferrari impossible to ignore. Because this is not a quiet improvement buried in a practice session. This is the headline position at Silverstone. The front of the sprint. The circuit where performance is supposed to be exposed, not hidden. The place where Hamilton's experience can turn a narrow edge into control. That is why the rivals would demand the check. They cannot afford to assume Ferrari is only having a good day. They cannot afford to wait until the sprint proves the advantage is real. They cannot afford to let Hamilton settle into clean air while they are still debating what caused the speed. So they ask questions now. They ask the FIA now. They push for clarity now. Because in Formula One, being late to understand an advantage can be just as damaging as being slow. And the most dangerous part is still ahead. Because the check, whatever it finds, does not remove the pressure from the race. If the FIA finds a concern, Ferrari becomes the center of a regulatory storm. But if the FIA finds nothing, every rival has to face the harder truth. Ferrari's sprint car may simply be better suited to Silverstone than they were prepared to admit. And that would mean Hamilton's pole was not a strange moment. It was a warning. A warning that Ferrari may have found the balance between straight-line efficiency, corner stability, tire confidence, and driver trust before everyone else did. That is why this first block matters. The demand for an FIA check is not just about suspicion. It is about fear of the unknown. Rivals are not only asking, did Ferrari cross the line? They are asking something even more painful. What if Ferrari stayed inside the line, and still found speed we cannot match? The second layer is where the FIA question becomes more dangerous for Ferrari's rivals than it is for Ferrari. Because asking for a check is one thing. Living with the answer is another. From the outside, it sounds simple. Ferrari looks fast. Rivals get nervous. The FIA checks the car. Then everyone moves on. But Formula One is never that clean, because the result of a check does not only decide whether a car is legal. It decides what kind of fear the paddock has to deal with next. If the FIA finds something wrong, the rivals get relief. The story becomes easy to understand. Ferrari was fast because something had to be corrected. The advantage gets questioned, maybe removed, and everyone can tell themselves the competitive order was not really broken. But if the FIA checks the car and finds nothing wrong, the problem becomes much worse. Because then Ferrari's speed does not disappear. It becomes real. That is the outcome rivals fear most. A legal Ferrari advantage is harder to fight than a suspicious one, because nobody can argue it away. Nobody can wait for the referee to solve it. Nobody can tell their driver, "Do not worry, this will be handled off track." They have to beat it. And beating Hamilton at Silverstone, from behind, in a Ferrari that has already shown sprint pole speed, is not a comfortable assignment. That is where the whole race starts to change shape. Rivals may demand answers from the FIA because they want certainty, but certainty can hurt. It can confirm that Ferrari has simply found the right setup window, the right balance, the right straight line efficiency, or the right combination of all three. And if that is the truth, every other team has to look inward. Why did we not find it? Why did our car not respond the same way? Why did Hamilton have the confidence to attack, while our driver had to manage doubt? Why did Ferrari arrive at Silverstone with an answer while everyone else was still asking questions? Those are not easy questions to carry into a sprint. Because a sprint does not give a team time to emotionally recover. There is no long race strategy to hide behind. There is no comfortable window to say, "We will understand it later." The laps come quickly. The pressure arrives immediately. And if Hamilton starts ahead, the rest of the grid has to react before it fully understands the threat. That is exactly how Ferrari can turn inspection pressure into race pressure. The more rivals focus on why Ferrari is fast, the more Ferrari can focus on using that speed. And that difference matters. A team that feels confident makes clean decisions. It tells the driver what it wants. It protects the tires at the right moments. It attacks at the right moments. It does not chase every shadow. But a team that feels uncertain becomes vulnerable. It starts preparing for too many scenarios. It wonders whether Ferrari will be strong on the straights. It wonders whether Hamilton will protect the tires. It wonders whether the advantage will fade. It wonders whether an early attack is necessary. It wonders whether waiting is safer. And when a team wonders too much, hesitation enters the race. That is what Hamilton wants. He does not need rivals to panic openly. He only needs them to doubt for half a second. A driver behind him sees a gap, then questions whether the move is there. An engineer watches tire temperatures, then wonders whether to push now or save. A strategist considers a risky call, then hesitates because the sprint is too short to undo it. That tiny delay can be enough. Because from the front, Hamilton can make the sprint feel smaller for everyone else. Clean air gives him control. The car ahead usually gets smoother airflow. That helps the car behave more predictably. It can protect the tires. It lets the driver choose the line, choose the pace, and choose when to force the rival behind into discomfort.